So we now turn to the special council agenda, and I would just remind members of the standards of behaviour which I've already covered. Item 1 is apologies, and we've already recorded the apologies at the start of the extraordinary meeting. Item 2 is declarations of interest, and before I ask for declarations, I intend to ask the monitoring officer to advise on the dispensation for councillors in respect of agenda item 5, which is the local government reorganisation. So, monitoring officer, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you will recall, members, at the May full council, the item was dealt with in relation to declarations of interest, in the sense that there was a general dispensation given to all members. There's been various legal debate on this, which I won't bore you with, as to which pecuniary interest affect which members in various scenarios of local government reorganisation. It has been established that it is good practice that a dispensation can be given for this matter. So just for the sake of clarity, there is no need for any members to declare any interests in item number 5. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, monitoring officer. That's very helpful. Are there any declarations of interest from any members or officers in relation to any items of business contained within this agenda? No, fine, thank you. Agenda item 3, members, is to approve the minutes of the meeting held on the 24th of September 2025. And you'll find those minutes on pages 5 to 14 of your agenda. Can the minutes please be agreed? Fine, thank you. I now come to agenda item 4, which is the Mayor's announcements. Firstly, I would like to thank all those, which includes members from all sides of the chamber, who sponsored and walked with me round the 65-mile boundary of the borough. The walks and associated activities are expected to raise over £5,000 for Papyrus. Papyrus is one of my 2 charities, the other being Borough. The Civic Carol service, which will be held in conjunction with the Betley Carol service, will be on Saturday the 20th of December at 5:30 p.m. at St Margaret's, Betley, and I hope members will be able to join myself and the Mayoress at that service. I will also be attending the candlelit carol service at St Giles the following day on Sunday the 21st of December, and members are also welcome to join me. Details of several events in February and March will be provided at the January Council meeting, but please note that the Mayor's Ball will be held on Saturday, the 21st of March at Keele University. I'm now going to depart from the script. So it's a special announcement, really, from myself and the Mayoress. We have great pleasure in announcing the birth of our 3rd grandchild, Ruby Grace, on Tuesday, the 28th of October. A sister for Henry Charles and a cousin for Delilah Rose. So, thank you. I felt I should share that with you, and I'm fairly certain it's not something that happens despite the average age of mayors. Anyway, thank you very much for your warm congratulations. Members, we now turn to the next item of business on this evening's agenda, which is on local government reorganisation. A copy of the report, which is fairly lengthy, can be found on pages 15 to 302 of your agenda. So, Councillor Simon Tagg, will you please now introduce the report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd love to, and congratulations on your earlier announcement for you and your family. And also welcome to people in the public gallery who may be here for this item and others as well. But Mr. Mayor, tonight, this is the third time we've brought the Labour government's forced local government reorganisation to this council. And let me be clear again from the outset, Newcastle-under-Lyme Borough Council, and I believe the people that live in the borough, believe that the current two-tier system, that's the county and the borough councils, work well. They deliver strong local services, democratic accountability, financial stability, and reorganisation was not in any party's manifesto, certainly not in the Labour Party's manifesto. It's not a local priority, and pursuing it risks diverting resources from what truly matters, delivering the services to the residents of this borough, and securing real devolution as well, not this forced local government reorganisation. And it's already diverting away from that task of residents' services that are our priority, because our chief executive and our senior staff are having to work time on this when they should be working for the people of Newcastle. And also we're having to employ consultants, which is a requirement of the government to submit a bid, which of course costs money. So to have that submission before us tonight. We're all aware the borough has a proud history stretching back over 850 years. And of course, we celebrated in 2023 our 850th anniversary. And we saw the passion and pride of our residents and businesses and people within this who are members of this council, past and present as well. We all value the identity and the geography of the loyal and ancient borough. And it's not about rivalry with anybody else or any proposals for reorganisation on the table from others. It's about protecting local governments that works for our residents here in the borough. Now, we've been here before in the 1990s and in the 1930s, and the issues are the same. Independence, history, financial security, and not taking on the debts of another authority, in this case Stoke, and I think it was probably the same in 97 and 1930. And of course, my colleague Mark Holland will have some interesting quotes later from the speeches that took place in a parliamentary debate almost 100 years ago about defending Newcastle from being taken over by the city of Stoke in a bigger council formation. So, Mr. Mayor, it has fallen to us at this time to fight the same fight yet again. We have a Save Our Borough petition, which is now over 9,300 signatories. That is a testament, I believe, to local feeling. If the government insists on forcing change, we must ensure that the borough remains strong and independent. And our proposal in the submission today and in the report is clear, and it is backed by a consultant's report as required by the government, as I've said. And it's proposing a unitary authority for the whole of the borough of Newcastle-under-Lyme based on its current boundaries as part of a 4 unitary model for the county of Staffordshire and Stoke-on-Trent. This is the preferred model that came out of the investigation of options which were agreed by the council in March. A unitary borough council would meet the government's local government reorganisation criteria by continuing to support regeneration and economic growth, reflect and empower local identities and places, and continue to provide local democracy, accountability, representation and community empowerment through having a local council, and allow for the continuation of high quality services and sustainable public services that are responsive to the local people we represent. As for the alternatives, any merger with Stoke-on-Trent to create a North Staffordshire Council would harm our residents financially and hit service delivery. It's all in the report if you want to read it. Our analysis shows immediate and long-term challenges under Stoke's plan. As we saw from the publicity just this week about Stoke's proposals, and I have a copy of the front page of the Sentinel here, we saw that it's all about getting their hands on Newcastle's tax base and our green space to sell for housing, to bring in income and to extra housing to meet the citywide housing figures which they would impose on Newcastle. While also, Mr. Mayor, ensuring there's an in-built majority of Stoke councillors in any North Staffordshire authority. No thanks, that will not do. It is because of Newcastle Borough Council's financially strong, with balanced budgets, well-managed reserves and no long-term debt that we are ready to take up the challenges that are provided by taking on the extra unitary services, such as social care for the young and the elderly, SEND, special educational needs, local control of highways, long overdue in my view, and we'll do so from a position of strength. A lot has been said about the arbitrary 500,000 population. I've talked about that before at the previous two meetings for these new authorities, and that's not based on any fair reasoned judgment of population size required for good local governments. And councils of this size are not the norm in Europe. They're not the norm in other parts of the UK, with the devolved parts. And it's just a plain and simple political figure that has been plucked out of the air by this government for whatever reason. You must ask them why. There are other proposals, of course, Mr Mayor, obviously the Reform UK proposal at Staffordshire County Council, which merges our borough into a sprawling Western Staffordshire Council. In our investigation, if you remember, we put this forward as one of the investigations in March, this did not meet those key criteria, which I've just mentioned earlier. Now, the deputy leader of the county council at the recent cabinet meeting didn't seem to believe in his own proposals that they would actually work. And then he was blown up and cold on whether he supported them or not. So I think there is some misunderstanding and confusion within the Reform UK ranks on what they want to take forward. But they did all sign a letter at the request of the Conservatives at the County Council to write to the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, to ask him to stop local government reorganisation, allow us to get on with doing that job which we said we wanted to do. And I would ask that members do the same here. I put in an email to all members a week or so ago, and I'll talk more about that when I sum up if I can. So, Mr Mayor, I must say something about the Labour leadership on this council in the run-up to this meeting. Labour in Newcastle, I believe, are playing games with ludicrous claims that my group somehow voted against a Newcastle unitary, when in fact it was us that put it forward. All the Labour group could do was play around with silly amendments and try and deceive local people. They won't deceive them because they'll know what's going on, and I can assure you we will tell them. We're all interested in seeing what the position of the Labour group is tonight. In January, they spoke broadly in favour of mergers, council mergers. In March, they jumped on the Newcastle unitary council train because there's an election coming. Or will they flip again tonight to endorse the non-committal approach of our local MP when it comes to the future of our borough? While at the same time, while he's down in London, voting for legislation that could end our borough. So, Mr Mayor, as elected members, I believe we should unite around a fight to safeguard our borough's identity, protecting democracy accountability and ensuring sustainable governance, which we deliver at the moment. Our proposal for a Newcastle-under-Lyme unitary authority achieves all those goals and is backed by hard facts and figures in the 200-odd page submission document, which you will see attached to the report. I ask members to support submitting this case to the government by the date required, because the future of Newcastle-under-Lyme must be shaped by the people here in Newcastle-under-Lyme Borough. As always, I'm interested to listen to the debate as we have this evening, and I will be happy to address any issues raised and sum up at the end. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Tagg. Councillor Sweeney, would you like to second the recommendations?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I would love to second them. I think I said this before, and I might as well say it again. I cannot understand the point of this, the benefits of it, what people out in Newcastle are getting it. One of the surveys we did, as many as 6% thought it was a good idea. I'm surprised there was as many as that. But 6% thought it was a good idea. I think when you walk around the streets of Newcastle a year, 2 years ago, and you say, what's your concern with life at the moment? I don't think many people would say, I really think we should reorganise local government. I think they want better services, more value for money. This report, the 200-page report you got, that's £200,000, that is, that we had to spend on something that we could spend on the residents of Newcastle. This next year's budget, we're looking to put £400,000 in to pay for this thing that's going to save money. It's going to make things work better. And we all know it's nonsense. We all know it's not going to work better. I can't, for the life of me, see any benefits to this at all. It'll be interesting to see what the Labour Party's position on it is. I don't think it's something that's wanted. Nobody in the county council wants it. They're happy to write to the government and say this is nonsense, and I'd agree with them. I could go through a few figures if you like. The 5-year efficiencies, they've given us a figure of 6,301,000 to save in the first year. Now that's the maximum figure. So, 5, 6 is a 30, it could be £30 million, but it's not £30 million. The next year's £4 million, the next year's £1 million, the next year's £1 million, the next year's £1 million. Actually, £14.64 million to be saved over 5 years. Now, that's a lot of money. It is. Remember, the revenue budget for the unitary would be over £200 million. So if you do the maths there, you end up something like a saving of 3%, certainly on the first year. To put that in perspective, the Borough Council has a budget in the region of £19 million. This year's efficiencies and funding strategies, we're looking to save £1.75 million. So that's 9% we're saving this year, as opposed to the 3% we'll need to save the following year as a unitary, because the figures are much, much, much bigger. And of course, we've got a track record for doing this. Everybody knows Newcastle's well run, it's well financed, we've got good reserves, we've got a good team, and it's doable. But they know what we're like. I might point out, since 2018, we've saved over £10 million. We've saved. Now that's over 7 years, but it's still prorated up. It's a lot more than we're going to need to do. So it's very doable. The Igniter, the consultants, said it's doable, and I'd confirm that probably. But I think it's such a shame that we have to waste time, officers' time, money on doing something that isn't wanted. It's not needed. It's not necessary. Why are we doing it? I think when Councillor Fear talks, he'll talk about gerrymandering, which I think is probably the reason for it all. I like all things the votes for 16-year-old school children that's going through at the moment. I think that'll gradually get forgotten about now, because I think that's another crazy idea. But there's genie's out of the bottle on this one, so they can't back down it too quickly. But I think it's a mad idea, and I'm very, very happy to support Councillor Tagg. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sweeney. Members, we will now move to the debate. Would any members wishing to speak please raise their hands high? Just be a few moments while we make sure we've got everyone down. There's some hands going up over there. Safety, hasn't it?
I'll do this side.
Yeah, sorry. Right.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Could I run on this?
You've got to start this down. Yes. Yeah, fine. It's okay. That's fine. Can we start with Councillor Dave Jones, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'm happy to say that we will be supporting the recommendations outlined in the report tonight. My preferred model since back in 2018 has been for a Newcastle-under-Lyme unitary. And my reasons for this are quite simple. I want more services run out of our locality, and bringing these services into Newcastle and not Stafford, I think, is in the best interests of residents in Newcastle-under-Lyme. So I suspect this also means that I do support local government reform, as I believe that this will benefit Newcastle by breaking up the control of upper tier services from a pan-Staffordshire model to bring that control of those services back closer to home in Newcastle. Indeed, in 2018, I, along with other members of the group, called for the establishment of a Newcastle Unitary Authority. And on that matter, a number of times we were told in this very room that by doing so, all we would do is risk a merger with Stoke-on-Trent. Well, here we are now, essentially looking to do what we were calling to do back then in 2018 in order to prevent that merger from occurring. and it's a position we support tonight as our preferred option. I agree with Councillor Tagg that this council is in the best place to step up and run these upper tier services. And I think I listened quite carefully to Councillor Sweeney, and I do want that 200 million budget because I think here in Newcastle we can make better decisions about how our Newcastle residents' tax money is spent on services, and we have a track record of delivering excellent services. So I'm not afraid of taking on upper tier responsibility and some of those more complex services because I know we'll do a good job of it. I want that 200 million because I think we can make a better job of spending that than under the current model. There seems to be some fluctuation right now in the target numbers. When initially the white paper was released, there was a very clear hard line within that you needed a 500,000 resident base, and therefore proposals that didn't fall within that 500,000 would not be entertained by government. Now it seems that there has been fluctuation in those numbers where perhaps 400,000. So I think there is now an opportunity to put a strong case forward for a Newcastle-only unitary, and that's something that I support and that members of my group support. We, simply put, want decisions over the services residents receive, and that's all services. That's not just the current services provided by the borough. We would like to have those upper tier services. We think it's in Newcastle residents' best interests if those services, decisions over those services are made here and not in Stafford or anywhere else across Staffordshire. And with this opportunity, with this fluctuation in the target numbers, perhaps now is the time that we can finally get a unitary for Newcastle. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Can I call on Councillor Holland, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm delighted to hear that Councillor Jones has enormous faith in the leadership of the Borough Council. Our record, of course, is one of success, whereas his party's record here at the Borough was one of threadbare public services and failure. I'm glad and somewhat. Let's start with a positive because, not everything is hugely positive tonight, is it? But I'm gladdened by the outcome of our process here. Appendix C is confirmation, if ever it were lacking, that our principles are the right principles. 59% of survey respondents backing our administration's Newcastle unitary proposal. And as Councillor Sweeney said, 6% of people think this is a good plan at all. Having local government reorganisation is something that only 6% of people in our borough are interested in seeing prioritised, and 3/4 of people are justifiably concerned, very concerned about it. The detailed submission at Appendix B demonstrates what we all hoped would be the case, that Newcastle Borough can succeed as a unitary authority in its own right and does not need to be torn apart. I have also read, because I'm a boring sort of person, I have read the submissions of the County Council and the City Council. I think at least the attitude of the county has been decently to state plainly that its proposal to tear itself in two is as sincere an attempt as can be made to identify the optimal outcome in a process the county wishes were not happening at all. The City Council have been less decent, I feel. According to their own analysis, the County Council's East-West split beats North-South division in 6 out of 11 financial metrics. And I thought this was all supposed to be about putting struggling authorities onto a sound financial footing. No, the City Council's submission to the process concludes what they wanted it to say anyway, which is what the city has wanted to do since Federation, which is, of course, to take over Newcastle. I was challenged tonight to demonstrate the Conservative Party's unwavering commitment to saving our borough from the predations of the city next door. So I can tell you tonight, the Conservatives don't just oppose the annexation of Newcastle Borough into Stoke-on-Trent today. We have been opposing this for 95 years. And I do have a handout, Mr. Mayor. Your copy is with the monitoring officer. Take one, pass it on. Haven't got time to read it all, I'm afraid. But you're very welcome to have a read. I will give you a quote or two in good time. Set the scene, Mr. Mayor. 1929, the leadership in the city promoted a private bill in Parliament, the Stoke-on-Trent Extension Bill, they called it. Let's merge Newcastle into Stoke. The House of Commons said, why not? The bill passed its committee stage after 19 days unanimously. And then in July 1930, it was up for debate in the House of Lords. And the Earl of Dartmouth, a Conservative peer, he got up and he said this: Newcastle-under-Lyme has one of the finest histories in the country. It had its first charter in the reign of Henry II. It had another in the reign of Edward I, another in the reign of Elizabeth, another in the reign of Charles II, and another under James II. These are to be scrapped and swallowed up by a new borough. This bill has done something which nothing else in the whole world could have done. It has welded together in one harmonious whole all of Woolstanton and all of Newcastle. All classes and all parties are joined together with the firm determination to stand shoulder to shoulder and to prevent, if they possibly can, this glaring injustice. I do wonder, Mr. Mayor, if today we here will be able to look back with pride on our own contributions to that same debate. The noble Lord, Lord Dartmouth, was successful that day in moving the motion that rejected the unwanted advances of our neighbouring authority. And I have to say, Mr. Mayor, in 95 years, very little seems to have changed. The arguments advanced in 1930 are the same arguments we're debating today. The annexation of a smaller authority by a larger one against the will and right to self-determination of the latter. The false suggestion that bigger means better, more efficient public services. The fact now as then that public debt is higher in Stoke-on-Trent than in Newcastle, whose residents did not incur the city's debt and should not be on the hook for paying it. The huge percentage of local people opposed to the change, the desire of Stoke-on-Trent to satisfy its housing need on Newcastle's land, and the enormous cost to taxpayers of the entire process. Well, Mr. Mayor, there is nothing new under the sun. What has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. And so tonight, that's what we're voting for. The hope that once again, we will save our borough. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Holland. Councillor Gorton, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we've had a really good debate so far, and I hope I'm not going to lower the quality. But I must correct Councillor Holland on a point of history. He didn't actually mention the role played by the borough's MP at the time, Colonel Josiah Wedgwood, a Labour Member of Parliament, who spoke out most vigorously against the merger with Stoke. And in fact, the Borough of Newcastle were so grateful for Colonel Wedgwood's intervention that they actually made him mayor on 2 occasions. So, you know, let's get history straight.
Our MP today, Councillor Coulson.
Well, he must speak for himself.
Could we have a little bit of order, please, Councillor Holland? Thank you. Councillor Gorton, please continue.
Anyway, perhaps I can be a little more outspoken about the process than some of my colleagues. And I think if ministers had hoped by the end of this month that Staffordshire councils and the City Council would have agreed on one or at the most 2 options for the future of local government in the county, they're going to be sorely disappointed. As I understand it, there are 5 responses that have been published, and that seems to me to indicate, 1, there's no consensus, and 2, show how difficult it is to unpick the present 2-tier system and come up with an alternative that actually enjoys broad support. And what I would ask, rather than plod on with this exercise, would it not be better for ministers to call a halt to local government reorganisation in Staffordshire and focus instead on the devolution aspect of last year's white paper? Because I think it's the strategic authority which could unlock funding and investment for transport and infrastructure, rather than these sort of shotgun marriages between different parts of the county that have very little in common. Get the strategic authority up and running, agree its powers, its composition and its boundaries, let it operate, and then decide whether any adjustment in the structure of local government in the county is needed. And Mr. Mayor, just reading through the responses from residents and organisations who've taken part in the survey listed in the report, it's very clear that many respondents question the value and benefits which may arise from reorganising local government in the county. Respondents, I think, query how the abolition of the two-tier system will improve the quality of public services. And I think that is a very fair question. And I have to admit, Mr. Mayor, that on this particular issue, I agreed with the reported comments of the leadership of the County Council when they argued that local government reorganisation was costly and an unnecessary distraction, which would divert energy and resources away from the real priorities our communities face. Absolutely. And I think residents question why ministers can find the money and the parliamentary time to restructure local councils, but neglect the reform of key services such as special education and adult social care, which are crying out for reform. And if we are obliged to go on with this exercise, and I wish the Borough Council's response every success, there's been some speculation that ministers have moved away from the rigid stipulation that each new unitary council must serve a population of 500,000. And I hope that that means that Whitehall will look with greater favour on smaller unitary councils. And the main reason I support the recommendation and why I'll be voting for it this evening is that I think a Newcastle unitary would be the most effective way of preserving the things that I most appreciate about the borough. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gorton. I now call on Councillor Wheeldon, please.
Thank you. Local government reorganisation and devolution. What this government seems to be, this socialist government seems to be trying to do is enforce a mandate to unify with non-comparable geographical regions. And they don't even have the evidence to support or reasons why. They have if we look at an analogy of things that are perceived as similar, just a simple analogy, we look at liquids. Take milk, take vinegar. They both have properties that are advantageous to different people in different circumstances. Put them together and they just make a sour mess. They can't be used. If things are not comparable, if you haven't done the proper truth searching, if you haven't done the proper investigation, you can never just lump things together. No thought has been given to cultural compatibility, just the idea of, oh, let's stick them all together, let's fuse them together through geographical convenience rather than to enhance the lives of the residents living there. Attempting to align a declining former industrial city of some substance of 100 years with an ancient market town of some 850 plus years is just a nonsense. There's no social science attached to it. No, even an experiment would be heavily criticised. I cannot find any evidence put forward that this government has researched other than the petulist social government mandate that's what they think will be of benefit to us. They probably don't even know where Newcastle is. There may be areas in the country where merging regional councils would work, but if it isn't broken, don't fix it. Newcastle Borough Council has worked for 850 years. Why try and use a one-size-fits-all approach? Our financial reports prove that as an independent unitary authority, we don't just work, we are incredibly successful. The fact that those at senior level within the government who created this mess through this bizarre scheme have since vacated their authoritative positions, those creators have now abandoned it. So the original champions have gone. So others are trying to pick up pieces. No evidence provided by the government either for the investment case or intended savings, arises from actually looking at our local reorganisation and what the impact would be. It will, having looked at it from a very wide perspective, just simply cost more. And it will cause serious imbalance in the widely different demographic and cultural development of the historical residency base. It's an illogical response. Those who are prudent at working at running the costs properly to make sure that we're solvent should not be forcibly aligned or merged to a financially disastrous region of the city that has a strong history of debt. And I'm a Stokey girl, so I know that for a fact. It's a history of debt and also misspending. Those with defective financial strategy and outcomes would seem to be being rewarded by being able to use Newcastle Borough Council as their own little ATM machine. What evidential investigation or impact assessment or consultation has taken place to justify these erroneous proposals? My opinion that I've been given by others is that this is for possibly fraudulent reasons as an attempt to gain some form of vague electoral advantage in the future. The council has done more to engage with key stakeholders to shape a meaningful local government geography. This council led by the Conservative majority. The government have created a problem where none existed, and then they've just dumped it on the local authorities to try and sort it out. It is nothing short of irresponsible behaviour, inflicting difficulties of magnitude on responsible, well-run authorities. It should be that form must follow function. We have function, so stick to the form. Newcastle Borough Council already has a high-level functioning organisation. If I look at the whole idea of devolution, the definition is the transfer of delegation of power to a lower level, especially by central government to local or regional administration. And the second definition, a more formal one, is descent to a lower or worse state. Synonyms for devolution are deterioration, degradation, decline. So tonight, whilst we're debating the future of our borough, and the stakes could not be higher, let's remind ourselves of a few facts. Newcastle-under-Lyme has balanced budgets year after year with well-managed reserves and no long-term debt. Our efficiency boards have delivered savings without cutting frontline services. We are financially and operationally stable and highly successful. Contrast that with the risks of a merger with Stoke-on-Trent. Independent modelling shows immediate and lasting financial challenges for Newcastle residents under a North Staffordshire model. Service delivery would suffer, governance would become remote, and our whole identity that we've had for 850 plus years would be lost. Our proposal is not just defensive, it's ambitious. Newcastle-under-Lyme Unitary Authority, preserving our local democracy and accountability is a must. Members, this is about more than numbers. It's about pride, it's about history and the voice of our people. We truly represent that voice. When we marked our 850th anniversary, we saw the passion of our residents. They don't want to be swallowed up. They want Newcastle-under-Lyme to continue to stand proud. So let's send a clear message to government. We, Newcastle Borough Council, will not accept a model that fails our residents. And I have to say I'm in agreement with Councillor Gorton. Shotgun marriages are not a solution. So I support this recommendation unreservedly.
Thank you, Councillor Wheeldon. I call on Councillor Stubbs, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, we meet today at a pivotal moment for local governance in Staffordshire and Stoke-on-Trent. The government's English devolution white paper has set a clear timetable for reorganisation, and while many of us have reservations about the pace and scale of these changes, we cannot ignore the reality. Decisions will be made, and if we do not shape them, they will be shaped by others. The proposal before us seeks to safeguard Newcastle-under-Lyme's identity and accountability in the face of these sweeping reforms. It argues for a single unitary authority within our current borough boundaries, a model that reflects our history, community, and the strong local voice that residents value. This is not about resisting change. It is about ensuring the change works for Newcastle. We know the risks of doing nothing. Larger remote authorities could dilute local representation and compromise service delivery. By endorsing this submission, we position ourselves to influence the future rather than be sidelined by it. The preferred option is grounded in detailed analysis. The public consultation shows that nearly 60% of respondents support this approach. This matters. Let me be clear, this is not a blank check. There are uncertainties, financial implications, staffing transitions, and the effectiveness of reorganisation elsewhere already remains unproven. But in a process driven by government deadlines, Mr. Mayor, we need to keep Newcastle at the table when the decisions are made. In short, councillors, this is about protecting the local accountability while engaging constructively with national policy. I urge you to note the work undertaken and allow the submission to proceed. It is the best way to ensure that Newcastle-under-Lyme continues to serve its residents with the focus and integrity it deserves. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Stubbs. Councillor Skelding, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Right, devolution, local government reorganisation, merging of councils. The government can dress this up as whatever they want, but when it comes down to it, it's nothing more than a hostile takeover bid, a political power grab, manipulating boundaries, and an attempt to absorb district finances. It stripped away heritage, over 850 years that you've heard of many times in these chambers, of the Charter of Newcastle Borough. A move that decimates representation and dilutes democracy. It removes the direct local connection that residents have with their councils. Now, I don't remember seeing this on any manifesto. Where was the border review? We asked about a border review in these chambers once as well. And with no referendum or even consultation with residents, how can you gauge public opinion and support, of which there's none that I've heard? No one's supporting this. Newcastle-under-Lyme residents don't want this. Stoke-on-Trent residents don't even want this. They are already residents of 6 already forgotten towns. Do we want to be joining those towns and together become one of 20, 25 or more forgotten towns that are run from Stafford? I don't think so. I know that I don't, and I know that the residents of Newcastle Borough don't, because I speak to them, speak to the residents all the time, as many in these chambers do, and I've not met any of this 6% that thought this was a good idea in speaking to the residents. So, this isn't, to me, this isn't just say no to Stoke, it's more than that. It's a matter of save our borough. So let's not forget, we represent the residents of this borough. In fact, we work for the residents of this borough. So how can we not oppose this, this full merger of a council? With no consultation of the people of Newcastle or residents, our true bosses, the residents, who put us in the seats that we're sitting in tonight, we must remember that. So I firmly stand with the opinions of the people of the borough, and I will oppose and call for a Newcastle standalone unitary council until the residents of this borough tell me otherwise. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Skelding. I have no more speakers, people wishing to speak from the Labour side. So therefore, I'm going to call on Councillor Paul Waring, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just talking on behalf of people in Kidsgrove. I've had a number of opportunities to discuss this with people, and those who have actually spoken to all seem to think that it's all a bit of a red herring. These things can often look good on paper, but converting them into a positive result in practice is another matter entirely. And I think the general feeling is that it's just going to lead to more levels of management and therefore cost. I was looking at the report today, and whilst the reorganisation costs seem to be in the tens of millions, the savings in many cases are minuscule. A typical figure I saw was 0.4%. And I think that it's very difficult to have any confidence in such a small figure producing a meaningful saving. It must be below the threshold of estimation accuracy. So given the history of fiscal responsibility at this council, the only sensible option is for the borough to retain its independence. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Waring. Councillor Crisp, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I was a bit confused because it's good to see the Labour group have had that sort of road to Damascus moment there. I remember in January they were kind of very pro the merger. From memory, let's give it a chance. There's a lot of benefits to it. But anyway, it's good they've come around. But yeah, I mean, they must be under a lot of pressure from their buddies in Stoke, and we went to one of their meetings, and I think there was a sense of entitlement. And they were licking their lips, I think, looking at Newcastle, and also under pressure, obviously, from the government pushing this through without any mandate as well. I mean, then we've got the horror of the Nightmare Before Christmas budget next week as well to contend with. 6% of people think it's a good idea. I don't know. I mean, in Audley, we are constantly worried about the houses and the green spaces, and I do hear sort of rumours going around saying, well, we drive into Stoke and we see all these brownfield areas. So some people do think there's a lot of space there, but I think actually the opposite is going to be the truth. And I think, for places like Audley, it's going to be concrete city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Crisp. If members on the Labour side do wish to speak, can you raise your hand? Otherwise, if we could just maintain order, please. Thank you. Councillor Adcock, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I do think it's sort of regrettable that this report has to come to council, because I do think, if in the view of our residents, it seems like a lot of wasted time for the officers and a waste of our money. This is not something that our residents are particularly clamouring for, having a local government reorganisation, if you can call it that, when it is forced, and devolution, which I'll come on to. I don't believe it is, in fact, devolution whatsoever. It is something that our residents do not want us to do. It's something that our residents, I don't think, are particularly interested in, apart from preserving our great heritage. You want to ask the question why it wasn't on the manifesto at the last general election. Is this because it's something that's been dreamt up afterwards in a typical of this government rushed way without proper consultation? Or is this something that was planned beforehand but was kept from the public due to the fact it would probably be very, very unpopular, which it has indeed proved to have been? The claim that a larger unitary council would save money, I think, is for the birds. I mean, we've seen other councils been promised this before in Cheshire East and Shropshire, and it hasn't worked. Where you've seen district councils be abolished and all powers go to the central unitary authority, this hasn't worked. You see our neighbours in Shropshire on the verge of bankruptcy, and they're trying to give services back towards town and parish councils because they can't handle them at a unitary level. And it hasn't worked in terms of delivering for the local people. So I think the idea this will save money. When you look at the cost of reorganisation alone, I think that idea is just a whitewash. I mean, it'd be great to ask Angela Rayner what she was thinking of when she dreamt this up, but we can't, of course, because she's no longer on the government front bench, and most of the ministerial, I think all the ministerial team that dreamt this up are no longer in position. So one has to question where the direction of this policy is indeed going. I said that this isn't really devolution. The idea of devolution, I believe, was to give power to local councils and regions. And what we're really seeing here is a massive pull of centralisation. It'll leave towards fewer elected representatives per head of population, decisions being taken further away from towns, rural areas, from where people are living. It'll lead to a massive centralisation of finances, with the larger areas controlling the lion's share and always having a majority over the smaller areas. That is the definition of centralisation of powers. This is not devolution as you can claim it. I was very grateful to Councillor Holland for giving out the handouts, because there was a great quote in there I said about what has Newcastle done wrong. We are a very well-run authority, and we still are. We have our finances in good shape. We are a well-run council. What have we done to deserve losing all our 852 years of history? What have we done to deserve our powers being taken away from us and given to authorities which haven't been as well run? It makes no sense whatsoever. It's our duty as Newcastle representatives to stand up for what our residents want, which is to preserve our borough's loyal and ancient heritage. Of the options that are available, of course, a unitary council for Newcastle, which keeps powers here and in the power of our residents, is of course the best. Although I do regret that this whole process seems to have been done in a totally rushed way, without proper consultation and without any democratic mandate. It'd be best if the government just hold the whole process until they have a proper consultation with councils and, most importantly, with voters. But I really don't think they will. But I will be supporting this motion wholeheartedly.
Thank you, Councillor Adcock. Councillor Hutchison, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to talk about waste and recycling. Waste and recycling are among the most visible and universal local government services, touching every household every week. They sit at the intersection of the two current two-tier governance. With forced local government reorganisation on the horizon, these services would be poised for significant change. At Newcastle Borough Council, hopefully soon to be Newcastle Unitary Council, we welcome this change. Let us talk about street scene. With street scene, forced local government reorganisation would allow us to provide better services for our residents. It would take away all the arguments and frustrations over who controls and who is responsible for what. Gully emptying would be coordinated with street sweeping. For any councillor not aware, gully emptying is the process of cleaning roadside drains or gullies to prevent blockages and flooding by removing built-up debris like silt, leaves and grit. This is done by using a powerful suction boom to vacuum the contents and then flushing the system with water to ensure it's clear. The maintenance is crucial for keeping drain systems functioning and preventing wastewater from overflowing. Grass management and hedge trimming. A Newcastle Unitary would again take away the arguments and frustration over who controls and who is responsible for what. The hedge in front of the May Place apartments on Brampton Road by the Sandy Lane roundabout is a good example. My fellow Maybank councillors and myself have been trying to get this hedge cut for months. The County Council initially denied ownership of the hedge, and the current County Councillor, who does not live in the area, has been of little or no help. Consistent policy and approach to tree management. We have a knowledgeable and talented arboricultural team at the Borough Council and would be happy to take ownership of all trees. We already have the tree software in place. Roadside weed spraying. We should be getting 2 sprays per year provided by the County Council. I have my suspicions we are not getting what we're paying for. With the Newcastle Unitary, we would have full control of roadside and pavement weed spraying. Ownership and scheduling of highway maintenance and improvement work. Having a highway officer as part of the street scene team at a Newcastle Unitary would allow us to plan and schedule work lots more effectively. I could go on, Mr. Mayor, but Newcastle is a leader. The report before you, fellow councillors, shows we can be a Newcastle Unitary. I support this proposal for a single Unitary Council for Newcastle-under-Lyme within its current boundaries. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hutchison. Councillor Fear, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Unnecessary in Staffordshire and costly to the taxpayer. I believe that's a phrase from the letter signed by all our county councillors that was dispatched to the government recently. And I note that signatories were from all the parties involved. And it's nice to see that unity, because I think it speaks not just to the resistance of this process here in our borough, which of course is the thing which most concerns us, but across the wider county as well. And who knows, is the county next? We've been here before, haven't we, with our regional assemblies and stuff like that. Some of us are old enough to remember that sort of nonsense, which again was an attempt to wipe away history engendered by a party which hates our country's history and heritage. This is not devolution. I am repeating what former members have said, but this is important. We need to make this message, so let's make it lots of time. This is not devolution. It is the reverse of devolution. Far from passing powers down to the lowest possible thing, it is the sucking of powers upwards to a fewer, smaller group of people who are more distant from the people. It is the reverse of devolution. But again, of course, once upon a time, somebody once said, the bigger the lie and the more often you tell it, the more credible it seems to become. And that is why it is our duty to push back against this nonsense. As Councillor Adcock said, there is absolutely no mandate for this process. It appeared in no manifesto. As I recall, it was never raised at all at the general election. It has been conjured out of thin air. And yes, I agree with my colleague, Councillor Sweeney. The motivation for this is sheer gerrymandering, an attempt to create fiefdoms for a certain political party that will last forever. Well, that was tried in Scotland. Didn't turn out too well, did it, actually, as it happens? But, you know, there you are. When the former Deputy Prime Minister introduced her brainchild, and I use that phrase in the loosest possible way, we were assured that this would save money. It's emerged since then, it wasn't costed at all. But then, given the demise of the former Deputy Prime Minister, clearly her grasp on figures is not particularly good. Nonetheless, we can see from concrete data, look at the merging that created Cheshire East. Cheshire East is in a terrible position. There is absolutely no doubt, and again, the detailed documentation this council has put together shows that this will not save money. In fact, the reverse will be the case. Now, the thing on the table, which is likely to be preferred, as my colleague Councillor Skelding's put it, is a hostile takeover bid from the city. And again, the large document, the devil is in the detail. I urge everyone in this borough to have a look at that document, because it does what I've been saying. It cuts down local representation. The number of local voted for officials will be diminished. In Newcastle, the proposal there is to halve, in fact, the number of councillors. In the Moorlands, it will go down by more than half. Strangely, in Stoke, it will stay the same. If this goes through, the Borough of Newcastle-under-Lyme, regardless of the political colours its people want, will be forever in a permanent minority. And we need to remember that. Let's remember the bad old days of the joint local plan. And I'm proud to say I was against it from day one. And one of the reasons I was against it from day one was the disproportionate amount of green space that was allocated in this borough, as opposed to the city of Stoke-on-Trent, to be built on. We will be back there again if we are not careful. That is what this is about. Again, no more local services we can think about. Those who've been on this council a long time, highways. Can anyone say that taking highways away from this local borough authority with engineers who knew these places, knew what was doing, has been a significant improvement? I suspect most people would say, in fact, the reverse was the case. So we've got a real problem there. And let's be grateful. Councillor Adcock has already used one of my biblical lines, the Damascene moment. But, you know, it is said that there is more rejoicing in heaven for a sinner who repents. So let us be happy that the Labour Party are marching in step with us this evening. It's nice to see that they've realised that all those doubts they had in January, and, you know, this isn't me, go and look at the video, it's out there for you, warning us we should be careful and there could be advantages in, you know, big is better and all the rest of it. You know, if they've realised that's wrong, that's great. It's, you know, everybody makes mistakes. This was a colossal mistake. Some people might cynically say, then going out to talk to people in the borough and realising actually there was no support for this. And I note that the Earl of Dartmouth's figures are that you know, that 97% of 90% of people who returned the thing were against this idea. So actually the cause has not advanced much in 95 years, has it? Getting rid of Newcastle-under-Lyme. It's a shame. I know that these were sound at the county. It's a great shame, it seems to me, that our Reform local councillor isn't here tonight. This is a party that wants to put itself forward as a challenger in the borough. People have a right to know, I think, what that party feels about an independent Newcastle-under-Lyme. And those questions most certainly, I think, will be asked. Another thing, Councillor Gorton, very fine speech. I think I agreed with every word of what Councillor Gorton said. That's interesting. Is the resistance provided by our local MPs to this process in the past? Wedgwood has been said. In more recent times, Mr. Paul Farrelly, not a man whose politics I agreed with, it has to be said, but a man who would have been on the barricades and on the top of those barricades. At the moment, I don't know. If our current MPs are resisting this, the silence is deafening. Where are those debates being made? Where are those points being made? We're not hearing anything. And that is very, very disconcerting, it seems to me. Let's, though, this evening, make sure that we tell the government we don't want this, that it is indeed unnecessary and costly for the taxpayer. And let's finish with our friend, as he was, the Earl of Dartmouth, and the long handout that we've been given from Hansard. Hansard makes good reading. So let's finish with these thoughts. Where has Newcastle failed? Why should it lose its great history? Why should it lose all that it's had so long? I don't think it should, Mr. Mayor, and that is why I am supporting this motion this evening, and I urge everyone in this chamber to do so as well.
Thank you, Councillor Fear. Councillor Simon Tagg, would you like to sum up now, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for all the contributions, I think, from all sides. And we've, I think, coming to an agreement on supporting the submission, which this council will submit on the 28th of November for that Newcastle unitary. But I will say again, its starting point is that we do not accept that there is the need for change from this, and it wasn't in any manifestos. It's risk tearing apart a system that works. And let me say clearly that two-tier system does deliver. It's efficient, it's democratic, and it's financially sound as well, a lot better than, as we've heard, of these massive unitaries that were created over the last few years by both governments, to be fair, by Conservative and Labour governments over the past 20-odd years. And we're dismantling the foundation of what is good local governance here. And we're also, which hasn't been mentioned, but is mentioned in the report, our aldermans will be lost, and also our burgesses will be lost unless there is a Newcastle-based unitary. That is our belief. We're trying to clarify that with the government and government officials, but they are rushing headlong into this. They haven't thought of these sort of things. But the burgesses of the borough go back many, many hundreds of years, and the mayor and previous mayors over the last few years are signing more and more burgesses up, of course, and the first female burgesses over the last few years. And all that could be lost because of this driven towards something that we don't want here. Just to respond to Councillor Jones, I think it was this group that reminded him in January of the leaflets that were going out in 2018 calling for the county to be the money from the county to be brought back into the borough, etc., etc. And of course, at that point, and at any point, putting forward a proposal that triggers a wider review would not just have been Newcastle, it would have been, as we're in the situation now, everybody putting views in on different authorities being put forward. And of course, what would have happened, just as has happened with this, Stoke City would have launched a merger takeover bid for Newcastle and Moorlands as well under that circumstances. And at that point, of course, it wasn't being forced. It was invitations would be taken if agreement could be got through the local area. This is being forced. That is the wrong thing about this. So if as I said earlier, I think trying to protect what is here at the moment as a borough council, I think, and as a Staffordshire, as a county, and the districts and the city staying as they are, the offer is there, as has happened at the county council, for us to write a letter to the Prime Minister, and if members would like that to be drafted and then sent around to members who would then indicate if they wish to have their signature put to it, we will send that as another pressing point on this from what we've said, and all members have said that this majority, that this shouldn't be going ahead. But if the government insists on change, then Newcastle Borough Council must not be swallowed up. It will not be a footnote in somebody else's plan, which if you read the Stoke proposals, Newcastle and Moorlands are definitely a footnote, because the jackboot of Stoke is directly over Newcastle and Moorlands to snuff out any independence we have, and also to take our council tax base green spaces to add to their housing requirements as a city. So I think we are against that. We fight for a unitary authority on these existing boundaries, as I said, because that's the way to protect local services, local finances and local voice. And I think, as people have said who've read the proposal, it is strong, it is practical, it represents that local identity and delivering strategic vision as well, because we play our part in a strategic authority, which, as councillors have said, Councillor Adcock, devolution is something completely different to what this government is proposing now. And a unitary Newcastle will play its part with the city and whatever other unitaries or the existing councils to make sure that we had a voice on a regional footprint on those bigger issues such as transport, jobs and skills. That's what devolution is about, and that can be done on that Staffordshire-wide footprint quite easily. But we need to keep the decision-making on the services, which, thank you to Councillor Hutchins has gone through there, showing what the benefits, what we would have of a unitary Newcastle in the area of street scene, highways and waste management. And we should try and unlock those during this process if we're forced to do it. So tonight, let's send a message to Westminster and to our MPs that Newcastle Borough should not be ignored, should not be merged away, and that obviously our residents' views should be taken into consideration and not become part of Stoke-on-Trent. We are proud, we stand united, and we should fight for the future of our loyal and ancient borough. I move the recommendations, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Tagg. And what you say about burgesses and aldermen and mayors, I think had it not been for the monitoring officer, I'd have been having to declare an interest there. But anyway, the recommendations have been moved and seconded. So now we move to the vote on this, please.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, could I call a name vote?
Is that a point of order, Councillor Tagg, please? Thank you.
A name vote, please.
Thank you. That would seem to be a unanimous call for a named vote. So we will now proceed to a named vote following the usual procedures. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A named vote has been called for. I will ask each member to say whether they are for, against or abstain. Councillor Adcock.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Allport.
For.
Councillor Barker.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Beeston.
For.
Mr. Mayor.
For.
Councillor Brown.
For.
Councillor Brown.
Abstain.
Thank you. Councillor Burnett Faulkner.
For.
Councillor Casey Hume.
For.
Councillor Crisp.
For.
Councillor Diamond. Thank you. Councillor Edgington Plunkett. 4. Councillor Fear.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Gorton.
4.
Councillor Grocott.
4.
Councillor Heatham.
4.
Councillor Holland.
4.
Councillor Hutchison.
4.
Councillor Johnson.
4.
Councillor Dave Jones.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Crawley is absent. Councillor Northcott.
4.
Councillor Parker.
4.
Councillor Rees.
4.
Councillor Richards.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Skelding.
4.
Councillor Stubbs.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Sweeney.
4.
Councillor John Tagg.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Simon Tagg.
4.
Councillor Turnock.
4.
Councillor Jill Waring. Thank you. Councillor Paul Waring.
4.
Councillor Weldon.
4.
Councillor Whitmore.
4.
Councillor Jill Williams.
4.
Thank you. Councillor John Williams.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Wright.
4.
Thank you. One abstention, 36 in favour, none against.
Members, one abstention, 36 in favour, none voting against. So the motion is carried. Members, we now turn to the next item of business on this evening's agenda, which is the Licensing Act policy. A copy of the report can be found on pages 303 to 352 of your agenda. Councillor Stephen Sweeney, will you now introduce the report, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I just make a point of explanation before I start? Councillor Bryan abstained on that last vote. She works at Stoke City Council. That's why she abstained. Is that fair enough, Councillor Bryan?
Yes, that's absolutely fine.
Okay. Yeah, if I can move on to this. Under Section 5 of the Licensing Act 2003, the Council is required to revise its statement of licence policy every 5 years. We did this 5 years ago, but you won't have been here because it was done by delegated decision by the Chief Exec because we're in COVID. The policy has been reviewed by Licensing Public Protection Committee in August. Now, they reviewed the consultation. They went then out for consultation. We had another meeting in October to review the results of the consultation. We had one respondent to the consultation, so leads to think we've probably gone the right way. And that was from our Environmental Health Department at the Borough Council. And that was it. It's just a tidying up thing. There's nothing particularly exciting in this. It's gone through 2 licensing committees who are perfectly happy with it, and I'm very, very happy to move it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sweeney, and thank you for that clarification on the matter of the abstention. And the reason for the abstention, I've just checked with the Chief Executive, will be correctly recorded in the minutes so that we do have clarity on the matter, which I think is important. Councillor Joan Wheeldon, would you like to second the recommendations, please?
Yes. The licensing policy is instrumental to the council as it sets out how we deal with pertinent and the sometimes complex issues raised when administering this regime. The council would be open to challenge if we did not have a formally adopted policy in line with statutory requirements. With this in mind, I second Councillor Sweeney's proposal to adopt the licensing policy as approved by the Licensing and Public Protection Committee on the 8th of October, of which I chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wheeldon, for that. Members, we'll now move to the debate. Would any members wishing to speak please raise their hands high? I see no hands raised. So, Councillor Simon Tagg, would you sum up, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nothing to sum up, but support the recommendation as printed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tagg. The recommendations have been moved and seconded, so we'll now move to the vote on this. All those in favour, please raise your hands.
Thank you.
All those against? No? That was unanimous? Yeah, sorry, that was unanimous, so by definition there's no one against. So I apologise for that. Members, the motion is thereby carried. Members, the next substantive item of business is motions of members. And a copy of a motion concerning the first anniversary of the Borough's Civic Pride campaign can be found on pages 353 and 354 of your agenda. The motion has been proposed by Councillor Simon Tagg and seconded by Councillor Hutchison. So, Councillor Simon Tagg, would you please speak on your motion? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, pleased to move this motion marking the first anniversary of our Civic Pride campaign. Over the last 12 months, we've seen a real and tangible effort made for cleaner streets, safer streets and stronger community engagement across the borough in every ward. This has not been carried out by the council alone. It's been a partnership of residents groups, businesses, voluntary groups, Staffordshire Police, Aspire Housing, Business Improvement District in the town centre, and our own dedicated council staff. And I'd like to pass on the thanks to all of those, including our staff that have done that. There's been litter picks, green space, improvements and tree planting, graffiti removal, support for vulnerable individuals, particularly in the town centres, but not exclusively there. And also Civic Pride has touched, as I said, every ward in the borough. And I think it's an attempt to obviously showcase the work the councils and all those organisations already do on a daily basis, but also bring the community on board with helping them, and also try to strengthen some sort of community ownership and, dare I say, social cohesion as well, which has been so damaged really over the last few years. And that's more important than ever. So that's one of the aims of this campaign as we go forward, which of course the motion is about looking forward as well. The motion does see things that I hope members will support. It acknowledges the success of the first year of the Civic Pride campaign, the contributions from all involved, which I've just pointed out, reaffirms our commitment to making Newcastle-under-Lyme Borough a cleaner, safer and a greener place, and sets out a framework involving scrutiny for the future targeting of the Civic Pride campaign with engagement strategy, youth involvement and funding to keep the momentum going, I think. Civic Pride isn't just about cleaner neighbourhoods, it's about people, place, purpose and working in partnership together. Let us build on the success of the first year and enable these values into everything we do as a council and promote that out into the community as well, whether that's through information, through changing attitudes, or whether it's concrete help for communities to deal with some of the problems that they may be experiencing. So I commend this motion to the council and ask for full support of the motion. So I move the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Tagg. Councillor Hutchison, would you like to second the motion, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you, Councillor Tagg. I have pleasure in seconding the motion to continue the good work in relation to Civic Pride in our borough. The first year of the initiative has been well received by our local community and partner organisations, and the commitment looks set to continue into 2026 and beyond. In the first year, we started in January in the Kids Grove area. In June, we had a day of action in Wolstanton and in my own ward, Maybank, where councillors, PCSOs and neighbourhood delivery team officers walked all over the two wards, chatting with our residents. In October, we had a week of action in Newcastle, In total, the Civic Pride events did 22 days of action covering all areas of our much-loved borough. The Civic Pride Investment Fund has assisted groups and projects within our borough to promote the image of Newcastle as a clean, safe and friendly place where people want to live, work, study and visit, and the programme of events in 2025 galvanised many people into taking action to improve their neighbourhoods. We have received and considered feedback from a range of sources as per the Civic Pride strategy aim of the way the council listens, talks and acts, and will use this to focus on furthering the other aims of great places where to live and connected communities as we move forward with the initiative over the life of the strategy. I look forward to seeing this work progress into 2026 and second this motion to enable this. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hutchison. Members, we now come to the debate. Please raise your hands if you wish to speak on the motion. Several people, so just a few moments while we make sure that we've got everybody. Sorry, could you put your hands up again, please? Thank you.
John Williams.
Thank you. I'll start with Councillor John Williams, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, could I thank the Mayor for his attendance at Harry Matthews' funeral. So I think that his family were really, really pleased to see the Mayor at funeral. Thank you very much. I agree with the motion, but what I find the lack of communities, people, our residents. I've attended 3 of the litter picks, or what do you want to call them, and I've never seen any residents there. Seen photographs of the different other events, no residents. So please, can we try to get the residents involved, not just to this paper, but actually going out and to try to get residents to take more pride in their area, which I agree with 100%. I mean, a good example, Britain and Bloom. It's not just about the town centre, it's about people's gardens, allotments, and that really pride in their particular area. And I'm going to have to say it again, that in my area, to get people to come and look at pride, we've got grass 2 foot high, litter, other stuff within that grass. So you expect people to go in and litter pick that would be, you know, absolutely ridiculous. It would be a real danger. But I'll just repeat what I've said, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to see more residents involved and how you tease them along to come out and join in the officers that do the work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Councillor Holland, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Can I welcome the motion, which I'll be supporting tonight? I think it's a timely motion coming forward as it does at a time when our Civic Pride campaign is 1 year in. And I've been thinking a lot about Civic Pride recently in preparing for the debate that we had not so long ago. And in writing, if I've not given you enough reading for tonight, at item number 8, there is a report from me on the work of the Theatre Trust in Stoke-on-Trent and North Staffordshire. And as I was compiling that, I was reminded of Stoke-on-Trent. I want to say some nice things about Stoke-on-Trent, if you'll indulge me, because we've heard a lot tonight about the administration of the city and the politicians there. I have a lot of affection for the people of the city, and I want to uphold them in my thoughts and those of colleagues here tonight. They're proud Staffordshire people, just like the rest of us. And I was put in mind very recently of the time that the city put forward a bid to be City of Culture in 2021. They weren't successful. They didn't win. I think Coventry won on that occasion. But it was a programme that was brought forward by very few people and was initially laughed at because, of course, people would have thought, oh, goodness me, Stoke-on-Trent, what's the culture like there? And honestly, it transformed the way the city thought about itself. And programmes like this, like Civic Pride, can do that for a place. And I think about this when I think of where I grew up and what the local authority does there to inculcate civic pride, community cohesion. It's a very, very important thing. It's very close to the hearts of a lot of people, wherever they happen to be. And I have to disagree very respectfully as I can with the councillor, not a million miles away from me, who described Stoke-on-Trent in the recent debate as a declining city. It's desperately sad that our neighbours have to hear that sort of statement, because nobody deserves to be left behind. Nobody should be held up as an example of decline, because I know people do that to us as well. People say that about Newcastle. They say, oh, it's not as good as it used to be in the olden days. Newcastle is not as good as Nantwich. It's not Shrewsbury. And that is not something that we should stand for. It's not an attitude that does us any favours, whether we're applying it to someone else or whether we're looking at our own place, our own patch, and saying, oh, it's not as good as it might be. So the Civic Pride campaign in that respect is ground zero for the battle of hope and optimism in our communities. I think civic pride isn't something you can conjure out of thin air. It's hard won, it's valuable. And yes, we do have statutory responsibilities towards our residents, but it's also right that we reach out to them in this way. I think of any discretionary programme that the council runs, this is the one that is totemic for me. It says something about us and our commitment to our area. So I want to cheer up Councillor Williams by saying that, yes, of course, we all want to play our role in getting individual residents to notice what's going on and to engage. But it's very important that we're doing it in the first place. I want this to be a town, a borough, a collection of villages that believes in itself and has a strong and prosperous future, not just because we're going to get our astonishingly successful Newcastle Unitary Council in the future, but because we are a collection of communities that has civic pride. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Holland. Councillor Stubbs, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very pleased to say that the Labour councillors will be voting to support this motion tonight. But I would like to mirror some of the thoughts that Councillor John Williams mentioned. Is it possible for the authority or indeed the portfolio holder for David to get out a calendar of events a lot earlier than it was last time? He mentioned that we were in Kisgrove as an authority in January. That came out maybe 7 days before the actual event, and it made that there were not as many people. Well, there certainly wasn't as many councillors there as could have been, and there certainly wasn't the number of community groups that could have been there as well. So can I ask that if we are going to push this on, I agree with everything that's been said by every councillor. Civic pride needs to be at the centre of everything that we do. But let's make this about some of our residents. At the moment, this seems to be carried by 4 or 5 of the local partners. We need to be actually reaching out to that next level and the residents themselves. Councillors can do that, local community centres can do that, but there are tens of community groups that if we contact them early and give them enough notice, they can get extra residents out there as well. And it will only make things better. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Stubbs. Councillor Hewson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with quite a lot of the comments that have gone before. I do agree. I've been to quite a few of the community civil pride events. particularly in Kidsgrove, Silverdale and various other places. I think civic pride has had a significant positive effect on both community safety and community cohesion by fostering an environment where residents feel a sense of ownership, trust and collective responsibility. And I have seen, certainly when I went to the Silverdale civic pride, we had the police there, and when they take their mobile police station out, or police van, whatever you want to call it, that's very well attended. I think because they're in the middle of whatever community it is, they always get a good turnout. But as well as that, particularly in Silverdale, they had a bike marking event, and I was surprised how many young people were there. So I think it's fair to say that, you know, next year a programme would be set out a lot earlier, because this year was the first year that the civic pride events had been put in place. So certainly we could look at advertising some of them on our new screen in the town centre maybe. But yeah, I found looking at it that a lot of people have enjoyed it. They've liked being part of it. And I think, again, we should foster that and encourage people as well to apply, certainly with their community groups or through their councillors, to apply for the fund that's shown on Newcastle Borough Council's website. But there is a fund within Civic Pride, so if any groups can fit the criteria for Civic Pride, they can apply for a grant, and that will be considered. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Heason. Councillor Fear, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Heason has stolen some of my thunder, because I too was going to say one of the nice things I think about this initiative are these grants which small local groups can use to further projects within their communities. These two debates we've had this evening rather fit together, don't they? Because again, this whole project has been about going down to the ward level, trying to make sure that things are done at the lowest level that's possible. And broadly speaking, I think this has worked quite well. Obviously, things can be improved, and I think, you know, we can all in this chamber take on board the notion that getting stuff out early encourages people to go that little bit quicker and such like. And you know, we all have the dilemma, which Councillor Williams eloquently outlined, of getting people involved. But the Civic Pride project has made a start doing that, and I think by and large it has started with a very successful first year. And one would hope, building on that and indeed taking on board things that could be done better, the second year will build and be even more successful in that regard. It is important, I think, at a time when community solidarity is very much under pressure, for us to try and do this, to try and show that we aren't all just little atomised individuals, but there is a community out there that we can build on. And as someone who was nearly mown down on Monday, perhaps we could put civic politeness in there as well as civic pride. My complaint was one of these wretched electric scooters which came herring around when I was walking up to a school governors meeting at Hassel Street School, nearly knocked me absolutely flying as I came round the corner. So it would be nice if you know, we could make sure that that sort of thing, which is very, very selfish behaviour, there's no respect for the community when these things are misused, that we need to have a look at that sort of aspect as well. But I think by and large, this has been an excellent project. It started well. I'm sure it can be made better. So I'm very much in favour of the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Fear. Councillor Simon Tagg, would you like to sum up, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, thank you for those comments. I think a debate around some of the successes where we can improve, what more we can do. Completely agree with John Williams. I think more community participation is required, and that's getting that message out there, whether it's through social media or through other means. And we can look into that and devise a campaign around that, I think. I think that calendar events, Councillor Stubbs quite right. We are truncated slightly next year because of the election period, but early as possible to get people aware of it as well, so that we can get out into the communities. I think Councillor Fee, you're quite right. I saw a video on social media released by the police. I think it was in Wales, of somebody being knocked over by an electric bike, which of course are supposed to be lit and licensed and insured. And the individual that he was late evening in Wales, somewhere in Wales, I think, and knocked him over and left the guy in the road, got back on the bike and rode off and left this guy unconscious. Luckily, nothing else ran him over and he had minor injuries. He was a young person. If it was an elderly person, that could have been a much more serious and life-changing injuries. And I'm pleased to see obviously the entrance at the back of here is the police entrance to this building. The number of e-scooters and now e-bikes that are being confiscated as part of the police's campaign. And we asked for that here at the Borough Council to be promoted as a campaign. And also against street races as well. We have issues with that in Chesterton area in the A34 through out to talk. And I think that's something the police are beginning to take more seriously now. And I've got a bugbear about inconsiderate parking and obstruction, where there's no WL lines, of course, which the people can be fined for that. But the police responsibility over obstruction of junctions and driveways as well. And that's not just about fining people, it's about that educational piece and the social media now, using those channels to get the message out there. This is not acceptable, and if you are found doing this, you will be fined as part of the laws of the land, so to speak. So I think the debate tonight has been good, and I think the civic pride slogan we've manufactured over the last couple of year or so now, can be grown and obviously be a shared commitment for people in the borough. And I think the partners working, I didn't mention parishes, but parish councils as well in my earlier, I should have done, and residents working together. And the motion hopefully keeps that momentum alive, spreads the word a bit more, and also really interested in that scrutiny piece where we can do for members to sit down and think of more ways of spreading this out. So we get civic pride as part of the DNA of the borough, I think, and that goes back to what Andy was talking about, and that civic pride, cohesion and social norms that we've always lived by that seem to be breaking down at the moment. So thank you for supporting the motion. It seems as if we'll have a good vote for it today and send that message out to people that Newcastle is a caring place, it's a community place where we can have pride in that and have ambition and work with partners to make it cleaner, safer and a more welcoming borough. I ask people to support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tagg. Members, the motion has been moved, seconded and debated. So I now move to the vote. All those in favour?
That's everyone. Unanimous.
That vote is unanimous. Thank you very much for that. So it's outside one, isn't it? So we move to agenda item 8, which is reports of the representatives on outside bodies. So a copy of the report can be found on pages 355 to 383 of your agenda. And Councillor Simon Tagg, will you please now introduce the report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Happy to do so. A good bit of cross-party work in here, originally suggested by the Labour group. We took it through the Constitution Working Group and got it into the Constitution. This is the first report back on that bi-monthly cycle, which you talked about, Mr. Mayor. And the reports are attached. I think they're not really for debate here at Council. I think if anybody's got any questions to the individuals, please, who've reported in here, please do that outside the meeting. But I think in the future, what we will do is, as it says in the report, incorporate this into the reports that we have generally at meetings from scrutiny chairs, from planning chairs and licensing chairs, and then we can make sure that's on the agenda for people to see. And as you'll see from the report backs, there's a lot of work outside of this council that councillors do and go on to committees and outside bodies. And there's a lot of web links in there which can refer to the agendas that were and decisions that were made at those meetings. So I'd ask members to have a look at those. Of course, they're available to the public to see as well, and also to visit those websites or question our representatives on there by email or something like that. But I would move the recommendation there that we note the receipt of the annual reports have been received and that the business of outside bodies is now being reported to council on a bi-annual basis. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tagg. Councillor Sweeney, would you like to second the recommendations, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Great pleasure in doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sweeney. Members, we now move to the debate, which is in terms of accepting the reports rather than asking questions on the reports, which the leader has asked be taken separately. Would members wishing to speak please raise their hands high? Thank you. I just see Councillor Stubbs. So, Councillor Stubbs, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I completely agree with the leader that this isn't the place for questions about specific reports. Just to say thank you for bringing these reports to full council as constitutionally required. I think it would be churlish not to mention a couple of the better reports. So thank you to Councillor Norcott for the Aspire report. But obviously the gold star certainly goes to Councillor Holland for his theatre report. People may laugh, but actually I've sat on the board for a year as a former leader here as well. So it is important that the theatre operates and thrives for not only the borough, but for the whole of North Staffordshire. And it's good to see that Councillor Holland is so passionate about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stubbs. Councillor Simon Tagg, would you like to sum up, please?
Nothing further to add, and move the recommendation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. In which case, we'll move to the vote. So all those in favour, please raise your hands.
In favour, unanimous.
So yet again, that's unanimous, members. So thank you very much for that. I now move to agenda item 9. This is members' questions. So I've received 2 questions for the leader and cabinet members. They can be found on page 385 of your agenda pack and will also be shown on the screens. I will ask the leader or the relevant cabinet member to respond to the question as shown, after which I will ask the member who submitted the question if they have a supplementary question. Could I remind members that if they have a supplementary question, it must be a question and not a statement, and it must be concise, focused, and relate to the subject matter of the initial question and answer. The first question is from Councillor Nick Crisp regarding the Employer Recognition Scheme Award, and that is on the screen. So could I ask Councillor Heeson for your response, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Crisp, for raising this matter. And yes, I welcome the award that we've received. It's good news that we've got the Bronze Award. Yes, I can confirm that it is the intention of the Council to build upon this by applying for Silver and then Gold Awards. The ERS is a scheme which recognises the commitment and support that organisations give to Armed Forces veterans and personnel via the signing of the Armed Forces Covenant and making of pledges, demonstrating the development and implementation of Armed Forces friendly policies and promoting and advocating good practice to other partners and organisations. The Council already is in a good position to achieve Silver Standard, having in place policies which, for example, acknowledge the housing needs of ex-armed forces people and is currently looking at human resources policies which would ensure there is no unfair disadvantage to ex-service personnel through the recruitment and selection processes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Heeson. Councillor Crisp, do you have a supplementary question? Thank you. No supplementary question. So we then move on to the next and final question, which is from Councillor Andrew Parker regarding the Newcastle Business Improvement District. And this question is now showing on the screen. So, Councillor Simon Tagg, your response, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Parker, for the question. I think it's really welcome the success of the bid reballot, which gives it 5 more years up to 2031 to deliver the thing it's been delivering, and also the great work it does with businesses in our town centre. And it's things such as the Christmas light switch on, which I'll just give a quick plug for. That is on this Sunday throughout the afternoon into the evening down in our town centre. So if you can get down there, have a look. That's obviously funded by the bid. It's something that this council used to fund many years ago, but couldn't fund anymore. So, but the bid is more than that. I think it's that support for businesses, and they have a business plan and a prospectus, which they went to businesses and got the support in the ballot from those voting businesses in the town, and that's available on the council's website and sets out on the bid website and on the council's website, because it went to cabinet, that sets out the aims and objectives for the next 5 years. And we as a council will continue to work in partnership with the bid and the other key organisations in the town centre, like the police, to help to deliver those objectives, which marry with the council's objectives. That's a cleaner town centre, a safer town centre, vibrant businesses, and also that large-scale regeneration, which is now beginning to take place on the 3 sites in the town, 4 if you include Zanzibar, which doesn't come into the bid area as well, to reshape the town and create that vibrant place for people to live, work, and enjoy time for visitors and businesses, and help the trade in the town centre. On the success in the Heart of England and Britain in Bloom Awards, I think it was a great achievement for the town centre again, our lovely town centre with all of those attractions. And obviously, last year the bid won the regionals and went through to the national and did really well at the nationals and got the silver award and also a commendation as well. So really good news, and that I'd like to thank all of the council staff that are involved in that, because obviously our gardens and our planters and all sorts of hanging baskets and are a key part of that. But the business engagement part of it for Heart of England and Britain in Bloom was carried out by the bid, and that got businesses on board and dressing their windows and frontages as well for when the judges came. And that's obviously seen with the awards that were given. And I know Councillor Skelding went on behalf of the council as the portfolio holder to the awards and with the bid to pick up those awards. So well done to everybody involved in that.
Thank you, Councillor Tagg. Councillor Parker, do you have a supplementary, please?
I do, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, totally echo the leader in thanking everyone that's done all the hard work with the bid. And we'll stick with the topic of Britain in Bloom, because the Queen's Gardens have been a credit again this year, and I'm sure impressed the Britain in Bloom judges. So, can the leader confirm that the council's policy of having a sustainable herbaceous perennial planting scheme mixed in with the annual planting in the Queen's Garden is to be continued? The scheme demonstrates that the council's environmental sustainability approach, while ensuring a striking and interesting garden environment for town centre visitors. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Well, thank you, Councillor Parker, for this.
I'm going to ask you to say that again. No.
Very exquisite and very technical question that I hope Councillor Simon Tagg will be able to respond appropriately.
Yes, I think that the main point is that the Queen's Gardens has always been the flagship, hasn't it, of our town centre. And what we've moved towards is that more sustainable planting, which you can see, which is really bedded in, using the word, around the side. But we do still do the bedding, proper bedding plants, and the changing throughout the year, which I think has always been a tribute, a symbol and one of the award-winning aspects of it. So just to confirm, and I know David is working on this, is we're ensuring that we still mix that sustainable planting, which will be there for year after year and will grow and improve, but also change those bedding plants in the central parts to keep that variety, which is the success of Queen's Gardens going forward. So thank you, Councillor Parker.
Thank you for that, Councillor Tagg. Members, agenda item 10 is to receive petitions from members. I have not been made aware of any to be handed in this evening. So agenda items 11 and 12 relate to urgent business and confidential business. I've got no urgent or confidential business that needs to be considered this evening. Therefore, there will be refreshments available outside the meeting, outside the chamber after the meeting, and obviously you're welcome to participate in that. So members, that therefore concludes the business for this meeting, and I therefore declare the meeting closed. Thank you.
Thank you.